this is from Jesse. I just gave it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. The gig economy is the new term for serfdom. I like that. However, I use the term gig economy probably improperly at times. I'll confess this right now. Because I'm a performer, I've like batted around the term gig economy inappropriately, where I probably should have been using the term creative class. But I would say gig economy, and I would be referring to a gig as in a performance, like a show. So I'm sorry. That's not what gig economy is. And yeah, I totally have used that term improperly at times. I hope you all forgive me. I have a feeling you all will. This is from Chris Hedges. A 65-year-old New York City cab driver from Queens hanged himself in his garage March 16th, saying in a note he left behind that the ride-hailing companies Uber and Lyft made it impossible for him to make a living. It was the forced suicide by a cab driver in New York in the last 4 months. Due to the huge numbers of cars available, with desperate drivers trying to feed their families, they squeeze rates to below operating costs and force professionals like me out of business. They count their money, and we are driven down into the streets. We drive, becoming homeless and hungry. The corporate elites, which have seized control of ruling institutions, including the government, and destroyed labor unions, are reestablishing the inhumane labor conditions that characterized the 19th and early 20th centuries. When workers at General Motors carried out a 44-day sit-down strike in 1936, many were living in shacks that lacked heating and plumbing. The managers at General Motors relentlessly persecuted union organizers. The ruling capitalists will be as vicious as they were in the past. Ostriger, a Romanian immigrant, owned a New York City taxi medallion. Medallions were once coveted by cab drivers. He drove the night shift lasting 10 to 12 hours. His wife drove the day shift. But after Uber and Lyft flooded the city with cars and underpaid drivers about 3 years ago, the couple could barely meet expenses. His home was about to go into foreclosure. His medallion, once worth $1.1 million, had plummeted in value to $180,000. The corporate architects of the new economy have no intention of halting the assault. Leasing requires a driver to pay $120 a day for a car and $30 for gas. The drivers begin to shift $150 in debt. Because of Uber, Lyft, and other smartphone ride apps, drivers' incomes have been cut in half in many cases. Uber and Lyft had 370 active lobbyists in 44 states, dwarfing some of the largest business and technology companies. The yellow cab has to be a certain vehicle. Life for Uber and Lyft drivers is as difficult. Guys sleep in their cabs. Horses in Central Park are regulated, he pointed out. There's 150 of them. They make a great living there. The guys on the horses and buggies. Say Uber comes in and says, we want to bring in Uber horses and we want to add 100,000 and let's see how the market will handle it. We know what's going to happen. No one will make money. They're all around Central Park, and no one can go anywhere because there are now 100,000 horses in Central Park. It would be considered madness to do that. They wouldn't do it. Yet when it comes to the yellow cab industry, for 50 years, all we could do was have 13,000 cabs, and within a year or two, we're going to add 100,000. Let's see how the market works on that. We know how the market works. They work less hours than cab drivers, he said. Okay, so I take a little bit of... All right, so some of what he's saying here, I do take a little bit too, that I'm not a fan of. Like I take a little, not offense, but I take disagreement with. The horses work less hours than the cabs. They don't work in hot and cold temperatures. If you believe in reincarnation, you should come back as a horse in Central Park. And they all live on the west side of Manhattan. We live in basements in Brooklyn and Queens. We have upped our status in life, that's for sure. We haven't upped our status in life, that's for sure. So I understand what this conflict is. We all do, right? We all understand the conflict between the cab companies and Uber and Lyft. However, the important thing to note here is not turning the workers against each other. The cab driver who is now struggling to compete with Lyft and Uber, Lyft and Uber came as a result of many factors. One of them, as much as we hate to say this, as much as I hate to say this, as much as it hurts to say this, because I sound like a capitalist when I say it, but I'm sorry, it's the frickin' truth. In this particular, for instance, is because cabs weren't providing a very efficient and well-priced service in many places. That's why Uber and Lyft came to be. People could get rides at a more reasonable price. So what happened is, because these cab drivers need to pay all these fees to stay on top, and because Lyft and Uber didn't have that, and because people were forced into these jobs because there were no good paying jobs for them, and maybe they couldn't get, I mean, you see how, so then you're pointing your finger at the Lyft and cab drivers, the Lyft and Uber drivers. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Marcus is saying true. Kimmy's agreeing. And Sanity is Radical says cab prices drove me to Lyft and Uber. So they were nickel and diming their drivers. They were hiding under the guise of, oh, we're going to limit the amount of drivers on the road, which I'm sure if they could have made more money, they would have more cabs. They probably balanced it out so that they were making a decent profit while having so much on cabs. So they were nickel and diming their drivers, which put their drivers in a hole. Now, if you were a good driver, you could still do okay. But Lyft and Uber came in and provided a more affordable alternative for people that were likely not getting paid living wages themselves. So, you know, Kimmy points out, you get in, it's already $7 just to start your ride. I'm not pointing my finger at the other cab drivers, Frederick. I'm pointing my finger at the people at the top. I'm not pointing my finger at the cab drivers. Got to disagree regarding New York City cabs. The local car services were always the reliable way to cut costs and order a ride. So you're saying that, JV, are you saying that the cabs were cheaper than Lyft or Uber in New York City? If that's true, I mean, maybe that's true. I've found the opposite to be true. Lyft and Uber drivers make less than federal minimum wage. That's why it's more affordable. Yeah, you're probably right. Punch up. Please point out how I'm punching down. Austin, please point out how I'm punching down. What I'm saying is the workers shouldn't go against each other, meaning it's not the cab driver's fault. However, it's also not the fault of the people that are driving Lyft and Uber because they need to supplement their income, or because they couldn't get any other job, or because there was no work for them. Please explain to me how I'm punching down. If I am, explain how. I'm not sure how that's punching down, but if you explain it to me, I'm listening. And I'm monitoring both chats on my own. I drove Uber and stopped because it wasn't worth it for me. Kimmy says, oh, you're saying keep punching up. All right, fair enough. Because, yeah, I'm not blaming the cab. And if that was what I'm saying, the people at the top set these standards. And I'm all about, like I know the cab drivers, in some cases, they have good unions. I'm all about that. But they also have all these nickel and diming fees set by the people at the top that make it more expensive. You know what a New York City cabbie pays to get into the city? I'd imagine a lot. That's what I'm saying. So we're in a rock and a hard place. And I don't know the fix for it. I don't know the fix for it. But, you know, you can't fault the people for wanting to get an affordable service because they need it. You can't fault the people that want to use Uber and Lyft for their income because they need it. You can't fault. What would be amazing is if we really started developing worker co-op apps. That would be, I mean, I think that would be the most ideal thing. So what we need is we need some very tech savvy people that also believe in worker co-ops. Because I think that would be the ultimate fix. So, you know, but what's not going to work is turning Lyft and Uber drivers against cab drivers and vice versa. That's what's not going to work. I think what would work is getting a worker co-op app. And if I knew of such an app, I would use that for my ride shares in a heartbeat. And I've looked into it. I mean, I'll say this, and I'll say this. I'm going to say this on the platform. Some of us have looked into the idea of developing a co-op streaming app. I'm streaming over here on LiveMe. LiveMe's got its issues. It seems like LiveMe is just waiting to get bought out. I'm saying that on the platform. So, sorry, but we've been looking into developing a co-op type streaming app for content creators. Rooster points out we need to abolish right-to-work laws nationwide, push for unions that favor the workers, and allow the cabbies to negotiate the price rather than the company owners. I think that would be a start, yeah. But here's the thing. Here's the thing to point out, Rooster. We have to understand that the technology, and this is via Nicholas Carr and his work, the technology is not going to go away. So Lyft and Uber are part of this conversation. Winkle says a co-op streaming app would be awesome. We got to find somebody. But yes, right to work is terrible, and it does need to be abolished. But we have a better chance that it's going to be made federal. That's the scary part. Jesse, thanks for sharing this. This is a really cool article and a really cool topic that we could talk about for the entire stream. But I think we at least started working on a solution, and that is co-op ride apps, co-op cab companies to try to work on this. Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.